Greetings, children of the screen. Your friendly neighborhood nerd scum here once again, and today I'm joined by...
Taylor!
That's right, that motherfucker's back! Because as some of you might know, the channel just recently hit the 1,000 subscriber milestone, and for that I decided that I'm going to do a series of celebration videos, some of which I'm going to be bringing back old co-hosts of the channel to take a look at different things. And since we're doing something special and doing a throwback, I thought that I haven't covered The Crow City of Angels on the channel. It's literally the only movie in the franchise I haven't covered. And seeing as all the previous movies we covered on a little show that we no longer do called What You Mean You Ain't Seen, guess what? We're getting another episode. Taylor, what you mean you ain't seen Crow City of Angels?
I mean, I kind of have now.
Well, fuck. The Crow City of Angels was originally released in 1996, rated R, running 84 minutes. The film is directed by Tim Pope, with a script written by David S. Goyer, and a cast that includes Vincent Perez, Mia Kirshner, Richard Brooks, Iggy Pop, Thomas Jane, Vincent Castillo, and Tai Trang. Right on, guys, so, Crow City of Angels. Taylor, you've seen the first movie, now you've seen the second movie. What's your overall thoughts on the Crow City of Angels?
Could have been better, could have been worse.
That's a fair assessment, I think. There's a lot of people who really hate this movie. Like, really hate it. I'm not one of those. Mind you, I did see this movie when I was pretty young, and just anything in the Crow universe was something I was excited about. By the time the third installment came out, I was just old enough to really start discerning the difference between a good movie and a bad movie. So it's possible that there's a fair bit of nostalgia involved with this movie for me. But despite that, despite the fact that it is directed by a music video director who's never done another movie, despite the fact that it's written by frickin' David S. Goyer, I still think that it's a really fun movie and a reasonably decent sequel. But yeah, at the same time, I will also state that while I love the first movie with Brandon Lee, and I think that it's a solid movie, I also think that all the emotions that go into that movie, from the real-life tragedy of both the story that it's based on, as well as the real-life tragedy of Brandon Lee's death, I think a lot of people hold that movie up a little bit higher than the quality of the movie it actually is. Now, for all the things they had working against them, it's a very good movie. But it is not the quintessential dark comic book adaptation masterpiece that some people make it out to be. So, in that respect, I don't think it is as far a downfall from the previous movie as a lot of other people do, but it definitely has its shortcomings, which we'll get into here shortly. But first, Taylor, what was your favorite thing about the Crow City of Angels?
Weird thing, the costumes. I loved the costumes. I especially loved Sarah's.
Yeah. No, the costumes in this movie are really fun. Again, one of the things in this movie is it's definitely a little bit more over the top than the previous film. In the previous film, it's very stylized, but all the wardrobing outside of Eric and Top Dollar are very kind of grounded, kind of like, yeah, they're a little bit heightened, but for the most part, they still just look like regular street hoods who maybe have like a decent sense of fashion for some of them. In this one, everybody is a unique and quirky wardrobe. In this one, it feels almost as if they embraced the comic book origins a little bit more, even though the comic book has characters that are depicted even more in regular clothes than the first movie. But this one definitely, yeah. The costumes all the way around are pretty awesome. Sarah's costume is really dope. There's lots of corsets in this movie.
Yeah, I realized that. I was like, she's wearing a corset.
Yeah, because Trini, Yellow Ranger, her character also has a corset, but with like Madonna nipple cones, smaller ones, but yeah. And in general, again, like Judah Earl's costumes are really interesting and different. They're not what you would normally associate with like a drug kingpin. It gives him almost this more kind of a messianic or kind of a monk type feel to it, more kind of spiritual feel to his character, which works for the character. The Crow himself, while I'm not 100% sold on the belly shirt vest, but it was the 90s. Mind you, that look had already gone out by this point in the 90s. But I think in like some material, it's actually supposed to be explained that that was actually something of his son's that he's wearing. But still, it's stupid. But the rest of the outfit is dope. Specifically, his coat is absolutely awesome. Because basically, all they did was they took like a regular Catholic priest robe kind of blueprint and then turned it into a leather coat. And it looks absolutely awesome. I love the way that it flares when he's on the motorcycle, and like when he jumps through the air and does all his weird, where they're like, "Be a bird right now, Vincent," and he's like, "Wah!" you know, like those moments are stupid, but it visually looks really cool. And then of course, all the other gangsters. Iggy Pop's, again, I love Iggy Pop, but Iggy Pop's wardrobe is also absolutely fucking amazing. Like he's got like a rattlesnake skin vest and like a leather jacket, and then like jeans with leather chaps that make his ass just pop.
Yes.
The
ass.
Like they very much lean into the Iggy Pop is like the lean Panther-esque, like sexy, weird, drug-addled dude. And it works really well. Another one we were talking about when the movie actually happened, the character of Spider Monkey, who has like cornrows up to here, and then the rest of his hair is just out.
Yeah.
Which, for the record, is a hairstyle that I wore once for about 3 weeks. Was hilarious. I had cornrows for a while, and then when we started taking it out, I thought it was funny, and it reminded me of that guy in the movie. So I was like, no, leave it like that. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be. I was still on a lot of drugs. I think that's a hairstyle that you can only wear when you're on drugs. Because anytime I was sober, while I had that hairstyle, I was like, this is not a good choice. I should not. This is not good. And Thomas Jane, again, his wardrobe is also unique and interesting. He's got the makeup simulating like the Clockwork Orange Alex eyelashes. He's got a metal cod piece that he has to take off so he can jerk off in the peep show booth. And then they have that beautifully brilliant moment where he is in his car and snorts the drugs and his head goes back and his fucking wig flies off, which wasn't supposed to be in the movie. He's not supposed to be wearing a wig. That's just supposed to be his hair. But they all liked it, so they just kept it, and it's just another level of, like, this weirdo character. So yeah, the wardrobe in this movie is absolutely fantastic, and I would even say that going out from that, the aesthetics of this movie in general are pretty strong. I really love the kind of like way that they do like the yellow phosphorescent looking light, where it looks like the whole movie is lit by the street lamps. Because back in the day, like now we have new street lamps that provide white light, but back in the day, most street lights kind of cast like this weird yellow glow that kind of, on one hand, makes the movie look like it's covered in urine, but on the other hand, it gives the movie this very polluted, kind of thick atmospheric look. Likewise, they wanted to have like the simulation of water everywhere, but they didn't want to actually have to spray down the streets, so they just threw like broken pieces of mirror and glass everywhere, which still gives you that kind of reflective quality that people like out of having like the streets wetted down. So yeah, the costumes and the general aesthetics of this movie are really solid. For me, my favorite thing, it's not going to surprise anybody, my favorite thing in this movie is motherfucking Iggy Pop. Again, like in the Crow comic book, the character Fun Boy is highly based on Iggy Pop in terms of his look and a lot of his movements and his speech. And then in the first movie, they wanted Iggy to come in to play Fun Boy, but he was on tour, so he couldn't. So they got a great actor to play that character, and it worked out great. In this movie, Iggy Pop is just off the fucking chain. He's got a great outfit. His motorcycle is dope, where it's literally got the Grim Reaper fucking a woman in the ass. And there are lines of dialogue. He has the best dialogue in the entirety of the movie. Hands down. Because some of the dialogue in this movie is shit. And there are moments in this movie where I'm like, there's no way in hell David S. Goyer wrote that line. And there's also just lots of little things he does in his performances. Specifically, the two best scenes with him are both the scenes in the tattoo shop. So the first one, he comes in to confront Sarah, and he does this little thing where he like kisses the guy who runs the tattoo parlor on the nose, and then as he's leaving, he like, like does one of these on him, and like all these like emasculating homoerotic things. So like this big buff tattooed, parlor owner and stuff, and that stuff's great. And again, there's the thing after she kicks him in the nuts, he just like sucks on his finger. That's not in the script. No, that's just Iggy Pop being Iggy Pop. There's no way. But the best line in the entirety of the movie comes from Iggy Pop in the second scene, where that same character asks Iggy Pop, "What the hell do you want?" And he goes, "House in the country, dog, wife, 2 kids, and your fucking head stapled to my pussy seed." And it's like, that, and the Academy Award goes to Iggy Pop for most badass dialogue in a mediocre movie. So yeah, like, and his death sequence is really cool too. Like the whole bit that starts with him at the bar, like doing the drugs, and then he sees Ash in the reflection, and then like, the chase that ensues afterwards, even though we're still just going around the same 3 fucking blocks of LA that have been redressed, and but it was like when we were watching it, like the explosion, the whole thing about that's cool. And then you get to the end and he carries him out onto the water, and your reaction was the best when the people start throwing the flowers and they make the crow around him, and Taylor, you just go, "Fuck you!" Because it's just the final straw. In like the first movie, Eric is actually leaving the symbol of the crow everywhere, but in this one, it just fucking happens. It's just part of the power set that's built into the crow. And that one takes it the furthest. It's like broken glass, okay. Blood pulling out of the Yellow Ranger's head, okay. These randos throwing flowers that just happen to land in a crow thing? Fuck you.
No, fuck that.
And the funniest part, I guess we talked about that is that, like, that was someone's job.
Yeah.
Someone's job on this movie was figuring out how to get the flowers to stay in the crow configuration, and it still barely looks like a fucking crow, and whoever did it was just like, it's a stupid fucking idea, whatever, good enough, man. But Iggy Pop really sells the scene, so it's like, yeah, Iggy Pop's my favorite thing in the film. Okay, so we kind of already touched upon some things in this movie that aren't great. But Taylor, what was your least favorite thing about the Crow City of Angels?
It's not gonna, the things that aren't explained. I really want things to be more explained, like the relationship between Sarah and Ash, different, what's the leader's name?
Judah.
Judah, says this random line that's like, "I've been to hell."
Oh, no, yeah,
I'm like, what?
No, yeah, it's the second best line in the movie, where Ash tells him to go to hell, and he says, "I've already been there, and I must confess, I like what I saw." But yeah, there's a lot of things not explained in this movie, and that's because they were all cut out of the fucking movie. Like, literally, both the things you just mentioned, along with several other things in the movie, I've read the original script to this movie, and all those things are included and explained. And in the movie, they just cut the scenes out of the fucking movie. So, like, Judah, as a child, died and was resuscitated, and in that time believes he went to hell, which made him into the person that he is. Ash and Sarah in the original script have many more scenes depicting, like, the growth of their relationship, and even in the movie, the way that we see those scenes are out of order. So, because again, fucking Weinsteins, man. Like, yeah, they took this movie and they chopped it up and mixed it all around and threw stuff out and ordered reshoots to make it more like the first movie, or to make people remember the first movie more. So yeah, it would give the characters more depth and, like, the overall story more depth if those things were fleshed out a little bit more. But, it's the 90s. Who gives a shit? Just make the fucking trees explode when the crow flies by and everyone will be happy.
Yep, that makes sense. That's
Yeah.
what Power said, apparently.
Yeah, I guess so.
New Power.
So, as for my least favorite thing in this movie, You know, it would have helped a lot if the relationship between Ash and Sarah was more fleshed out, but again, I've read the original script, and I fucking hate it. Not the script, the Sarah and Ash relationship. For me, it is the worst thing that is in the movie or in the original script. Because the whole point of The Crow is you come back, you seek revenge, and then you die, and you go and be with your loved one in the afterlife. And in this one, Ash doesn't want to go be with his son forever. He wants to stay on Earth and get some ass. Which, there's a scene where Danny shows up. He's like, if you don't finish, then you can't be together. And it's like, motherfucker, you little whiny bitch. He doesn't want to come back to you anyway. He's got a chick with really expressive eyes now who clearly wants to jump his undead bones. So yeah, and but in the original script, that was building towards something that they cut out of the movie and changed. And I prefer the fact that it's changed, that in the movie he goes and he is with his son in the end, because that's the way it's supposed to be. But the whole point of that relationship was supposed to build up a reason for Ash to want to stay on Earth, then for him to make the decision to stay on Earth, and then she dies anyway, and he's stuck, just wandering the Earth, which, again, plays into something they keep trying to do with the Crow franchise that I fucking hate! But it at least would have made sense for their relationship within the story. But they keep trying to do this thing. They do it in the Crow Stairway to Heaven series, which I will be covering on the channel here pretty soon. And they also have done it in several of the comics, where for some reason at the end of his revenge mission, he doesn't die and go to be with his loved one. Instead, he walks the earth as a dark superhero vigilante type character, which fucking sucks. The Crow movies are about the mission and about love winning in the end. So fuck you. That sucks. Stop trying to make the Crow into every other superhero. He's not Batman, for fuck's sake, okay? Don't stop trying to make the Crow Batman. He's not Batman. Batman's got his own bag. And it doesn't have a bird in it. It's got a bat. So yeah, anyway, even in the scenes that we get of these two actors, they don't particularly have the best chemistry. And Vincent Perez's performance as Ash is kind of all over the place. Part of that is because of convoluted script, and part of that is because they keep trying to make him more like Eric from the first movie, where the whole idea of him coming back from the dead makes him kind of a crazy, unpredictable character. But when you chop so much out and you leave so much out of the script, those moments, you end up with moments that are right next to each other that are tonally inconsistent, and makes it feel even more out of place. And that's never more true than in the scenes with him and Sarah, where they're like, for this moment, act sad and broody and a little crazy, and for this moment, act sexy. When you're going in between these things, these draped things that are randomly hanging, make sure that you walk like you're a sexy lady going through there, because this is the seduction scene. So yeah, no, I just it's not just the relationship itself. I don't like the concept at its core, but then all the other bad decisions made in the movie make it so much worse. So I fucking hate it, and I think it's the weakest thing in this movie. So, as I said, and as you probably could tell from both the little topics of our favorites and least favorites, there's a lot of things in this movie, despite the fact that I like it quite a lot, that don't really work or are just off. So let's just discuss a few of those things outside of the ones that we've already done. The one thing that I am going to bring back up that was mentioned previously is, why did the trees explode when the bird flies by it?
Someone explain, please. Maybe someone else understands in the world, and we just need an explanation.
Yeah, I mean, they're really expanding the Crow's power set in this movie, so now trees just fucking explode. I guess there weren't any trees in Detroit, so they didn't have to worry about it. Maybe it's just a thing. Maybe anytime it flies... No, because there's trees in the graveyard in the first movie, and those trees don't explode.
Yeah, but he didn't, start yet, right?
I guess. I don't know. But either way, trees explode. That doesn't fucking work. Yeah, also, in the scene where he kills Thomas Jane's character Nemo, and then Curve comes and finds the bird in its mouth, then Ash calls him on the Peep Show phone. Why the fuck is that phone connected to an outside line? And also, it's not hung up. It's just laying on the fucking counter. And like, I like the concept of that scene. Like, do you know what they call a group of crows? Murders. Think about it, Kurt. Like, that's cool, but the way you get there, what the fuck are you even doing? Like, it's the 90s, but do you people think that people don't know how phones work? Fuck you! How about you, Taylor? What were a couple of things that stood out to you as things that were just like, what are you doing?
I think you mentioned it. It's like a reshoot of like the church scene where they have like the shrine for Day of the Dead, you know?
Yeah.
And he's supposed to look brooding
And sad, yes.
and sad, but it doesn't look like that. It looks like he wants to make out with this priest.
Yeah. Also, it's another one of these fucking movies where you have a character who, as far as we know, from based on his garage and like his living situation, has lived in LA for a while.
Yeah.
But doesn't know what the Day of the fucking Dead is, when apparently in this universe it's a much bigger deal than it is in ours. Like, even in our universe, if you live in LA or a predominant, like, Hispanic community, you are gonna know what Day of the Dead is.
Yeah.
This motherfucker has no fucking clue what it is. And in this movie, it's a big fucking deal. Everything we see of LA on that day is Day of the Dead shit. Like, Curve getting the little flowers thrown, that's part of the Day of the Dead shit. There are dogs running around in skull masks. And this dude's whole life living in LA, or the whole time he's been there, he never went like, why the fuck is that dog wearing a skull mask? Also, for the record, since we're talking about weird things, why the fuck is that dog wearing a skull mask? I know it's Day of the Dead, but... What? What? Oh, okay. Alright. I guess? Yeah. So, any other little things? Actually, you know what? Since you brought it up, let's again point to Vincent Perez's performance. There are scenes in this movie where he is really good.
Yeah.
And then there are other scenes where he's really good in parts of it. And then in other parts of it, you're like, now you're just a completely different character, and your accent has changed. And I don't know how much of that is because of reshoots, or them shooting things out of order, or dubbing after the fact, because there is a fair amount of ADR in this movie. But it doesn't help that, like, Vincent Perez is not American. So, like, you should have just let him use his regular accent for the whole movie. It would have been... But, like, there are other times where he's clearly trying to not use his accent and do a different thing, and he just sounds like fucking Count Dracula. And the movie gets a lot of shit because they're like, oh, they just made him sound like Count Dracula. And it's like, I don't think that was the intent. I think that's just a thing that fucking happened. But yeah, like, he gives an honest effort, but the truth of the matter is, English isn't his first language, and if you look at the majority of the films that he does, he usually is playing like a frilly, sexy man. Even in the Queen of the Damned, that shitty vampire movie, Queen of the Damned, based on the Anne Rice book, they have him playing, I can't even remember the character's name, it's the vampire who turned Lestat in that. And like, even in that, he's wearing like crushed velvet, and he's all like, I'm a vampire. You know? So yeah, it's weird. It's like they realized that Eric had become a sex symbol in the first movie, and that's something they hadn't really intended, but they were like, yeah, every guy who wants to hook up at a Halloween party just dresses like the Crow because they know it'll instantly make him sexy. So in this movie, you can tell that there was more of a effort to make the character sexy, and every time they try to do it, it backfires. Like, the reason it works for Brandon Lee is because he's not trying. He was an attractive man with charisma and screen presence, and once you put him in makeup that highlights all his best features and show him just kicking ass like nobody's business, he becomes a sexy character. And like, the romanticism of the first movie also helps that. And in this movie, they try to force a love story into it to increase it, and then try to have the actor act as sexy as possible and give him a belly shirt. So it doesn't fucking work. These are just a few things. that in this movie do not work. But as I've said, I really like this movie. It's not a great movie. It's not a horrible movie. It is far better than either of the subsequent sequels to this franchise. And I think that it's a reasonably decent sequel. It's a good start. It at least gives you the idea that, like, The Crow could be a franchise where you're dealing with different avatars of the Crow power that have been brought back to seek revenge. It gives you the perfect blueprint for a franchise, and then they just fuck up so much other stuff in between. And David Goyer, for like what it's worth, again, I've read his original script, and it's not great, but it's not horrible. It's a very 90s movie, and David Goyer was right at home in the 90s. But this problem, in this movie, the problem also is that, like, Tim Pope, the director, isn't really a narrative storyteller. He has most of his background in music videos. Motherfucker's done more music videos for The Cure than anyone else. And also, he's the guy who directed the video to Safety Dance. So, that's probably what he's best known for. The Crow City of Angels and motherfucking Safety Dance. But yeah, like, with Goyer working on a movie, you have to have a director who has a strong sense of narrative themselves, you know? That's why, like, the first two movies in the Dark Knight trilogy kind of work, is because he has two writers who are really strong who are able to help guide him. Same with the first two Blade movies, like, both of those directors have strong narrative storytelling skills. And they helped him shape his, like, their idea with his ideas into a cohesive story. But then you look at shit like Blade Trinity, or Man of Steel, or Batman vs. Superman, or the Ghost Rider movies, one of which I love, but it's a shitty throwback to a 90s style action movie that's directed by some badass visual action directors. David S. Goyer needs to stop writing y'all's motherfucking movies, guys. Like, just... He's done a lot of work, he's worked in comic books, but just because you're doing a movie that's based on a comic book doesn't mean you get David S. fucking Goyer. Part of a writer's job is to do research, get a good writer, and then let them research the character of the franchise. Fucking David S. Goyer.
The Crow City of Angels.
Right on, children of the screen. The Crow City of Angels. So, Taylor, in general, you have fun with this movie?
Oh yeah, it definitely made me laugh, and then it also made me question everything.
Yeah, and of course, as I said, I really enjoy this movie. It is entertaining, to be sure. Not nearly as good as the first movie, not nearly as bad as the next two movies or the TV show, but despite all of its problems, it is still a pretty entertaining action schlocky movie. So, would you recommend it to people?
Certain people, yes.
Yes. I'd recommend it. Again, like, if you like action movies with weird over-the-top characters, this is definitely something that you can get some enjoyment out of. Whether it's from the moments that are legitimately cool and fun, or the moments that just make you go, what the fuck was that? Either way, I think this movie does have watchability. It's definitely got some value in it. The film looks really good, the visuals are really great, some of the performances are really good, the others that aren't are still pretty fun, and a lot of the ideas and concepts behind the movie are pretty fun. So anyway, guys, those are our thoughts on The Crow City of Angels. What did you guys think about it? I'm sure you've got thoughts. Let me know down in the comments below. Also, if you're not subscribed to the channel, make sure to subscribe to the channel and boost those subscriptions, since now we're over 1,000. You know, let's see how long it takes. Let's see if it takes another 4 years to get to 2,000. See how that goes. Yeah. Also, like the video and share it with some friends. Right on, guys. Thank y'all very much for watching. I hope y'all have a good one.
Bye!
Nerd scum. Out. Caw, caw, caw! Bang! Fuck, I'm dead. Yeah, I know that's from the first movie, but I had to do it anyway.